jumping straight into it. Ed, our producer, put up questions on our Instagram channel, and you got some interesting questions.
It did. It inspired a thought that we could do a who's most likely to.
Yeah, you said you wanted to do a who's most likely. So that's like that TV show where you have a couple on the show, and then they ask you questions and they see how well do they know each other.
Because the first question that someone sent in was that sort of style of question, so I thought we could do a load.
And then you've got some other questions that we can get into later on in the show,
Yeah.
I think. Just to clarify some points on this, it needs to be quick fire, right? So right away, we say who we think. It's either ourselves or the other person.
Yeah.
How do we say it? So I say Nabs.
I think we have to because people are listening. I'm going to point at you also just to make it look nicer visually.
But do I say me or do I say Shane? What do I call
Oh,
myself?
yeah.
Say your name. Say your name.
Say my name.
No. Just say me. Fuck it. We'll see how it goes. Get through. I don't even know what questions you're gonna.
All right.
The first one is the one that the person sent in.
Okay, let's do it because we're making it confusing, and I'm gonna just bash it. Okay, say the question.
Okay, the first question we got that someone sent was who's most likely to fuck a sheep?
Shane.
Nabs.
Well, what's your theory behind that?
Because I think you'd fuck anything.
Okay. Oh my god! You really want to start a podcast off like that?
Well, I'm in a relationship and I have a child.
Exactly. So I don't have any problem fucking. I don't have an issue if I meeting people.
Yeah, but like, why? I don't think I'd fuck a sheep.
Okay, well, let me break it down quickly.
I definitely think I would. I don't think I'd fuck
Well,
a
listen,
sheep.
I definitely wouldn't fuck a sheep, but I think you're living in the country. You've been in a committed. You've been in a committed. Let me speak, please. Thank you. You've been in a committed relationship forever, and like you'll never ever cheat ever. So if you're going to get your rocks off, you'll probably fuck a sheep. That's it. Next one.
No, that makes no sense.
It makes
at all.
sense. It makes sense.
In your mind.
Hey, sheep fucker.
Okay, next one. Who's most likely to become a stripper?
Shane.
I'd say Shane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shane said Shane.
I've done some stripping. No, not like fucking serious stripping.
What?
Just like fucking stripping off your top.
Can I tell you the logic? I think. Who would you have said?
I would have thought Nabs first, and then I thought Shane after.
Yeah, I think the obvious one is me, and then I think Shane because Shane's he's the first one to get up and dance on a table and do all these stupid stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of more like not strippers and get paid to strip professionally, but more just I'd strip.
Yeah, that'd probably be my field.
Okay, number 3. Who's most likely to get arrested for pissing in public?
Shane.
I've gotten arrested.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, you have been arrested for it. Well,
no, I've not been arrested. I have a funny story on that. I was when I first moved to London, living in Acton, got off the tube station in Shepherd's Bush Market, and I was bursting for a piss. Went to Nando's, and I said, because I was being polite, "Hi, can I please use the toilet?" And they said, "Customers only." I was like, okay, fuck. Looking around, there was nowhere else.
Why didn't you buy like a fucking can of Coke?
But like I was just like, fuck you, so like, and I said, look, I'll piss outside. Like, so I went outside onto the main road, and I just found a dark street like off it. So I ran down, started pissing in a dark corner on some grass. Like no one was ever going to be fucking going there. So I turned around and I looked over my shoulder. There was 2 police officers walking towards me. And I was like, oh fuck's sake! And next thing they pulls me out and they said, look, you're urinating in public. We've a zero tolerance policy in this borough for that. And I was like, lads, come on, like I'm fucking down a dark alleyway in the corner.
Sure, nobody would see you, Mickey, anyway.
But the older fella, the older fella goes, come here. And he pulled me out onto the road and he said, look up. And I looked up and I was pissing on the side of the Shepherd's Bush police station.
Here, that reminds me of something, because you said police station. When I was finished work in Waterloo, and I was rushing, I was like, I forgot where I had to go, but I had to run to the police station to get something to do with my passport, and I was late as fuck. And I legged it into the station with backpack on, and I was like, oh, I need to get, and everyone came over and go, oh, and people got their guns out and shit. What the fuck are you doing? I'm like, oh shit, yeah. I just ran into a police station with a backpack on.
Especially with your fucking.
I know, yeah. What's the next question? How many do you have?
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more.
5 more. Okay, go ahead.
Most likely to forget their own birthday.
Probably me, Nabs.
Nabs, I'd say,
yeah. Yeah, because I'm not a huge birthday person and I've got a shit memory.
I don't know, I didn't really have any answer for that there,
Yeah.
I never forgot my birthday.
Oh, wouldn't be, that's not a solid answer for me, but I'd say me.
It would be a worrying sign if you start forgetting your birthday, especially as a previous professional fighter. Next one there, bud.
Most likely to give up alcohol.
Shane.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Did you, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I would say, this is my logic behind it. I drink and, partake in a bit of weed and drink most days, but I do it at a relatively small level, so I'm always consistent where I think Shane is a little bit more. You find it hard to say no when you start.
Yeah, like I have to keep myself in check.
Yeah, so I think, and because you were a fighter before, you used to give it up all the time.
Yeah.
So
I flirt with the idea of being teetotal for maybe a year at some point.
yeah, best of luck with that. Anyway,
Nice
next
one.
question.
Most likely to crash a car.
Me.
Yeah,
I mean, I
thought
already
Nabs
have
as well.
plenty of time.
Have.
Yeah, I've got a great story on that. I'll tell it on another time because it's a long one.
Will you drive with your knees?
I do drive my knees.
You drive with your
Yeah, but I'm
knees?
fucking great at it though.
He is, to be fair, it is pretty impressive.
Thank you.
But why? But that's so lean.
Huh?
Why don't you use your hands when you're driving?
Because then if I drive my knees, I have 2 extra body parts I can do stuff with. Like,
All right,
Okay.
I'm never getting in the car with you, my daughter.
no, if Isabel's in the car, I'll use hands.
Thanks very
One
much.
hand
bud.
only.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Who's most likely to nail a pub quiz?
Me.
Shane,
Fuck no.
why'd you?
I
think
thought
so?
Shane.
Okay, well, I'm offended by that for one.
Thanks, Ed.
I'll tell you why. For the last 7 years, I've been doing annual pub quizzes every Christmas. Let me finish.
All right, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
You can defend yourself. No.
And like, yeah, and I'm so well versed in every section of pub quizzes. I think I do better. What's your logic?
Smarter than you.
Bullshit, man.
I just
Fuck
thought
you.
Shane is more likely to know some weird shit that like might come up in a pub quiz.
How much fucking knowledge have I given you and how much have I be spouting out information to this for?
What, no fucking COVID conspiracies?
No. Very topics, actually.
Go on anyway.
Last one. Who's most likely to have a disease named after them?
Dabs. You didn't answer that one, bud.
Okay, so we're gonna get on with the show. So I noticed on it because I was having a look at it this morning about the questions that people asked, and you said you were going to ask us later on in the show some other
I've got a
questions.
few, yeah.
I don't know if this is one of those, but I'd like to tackle it.
So did you see those questions? Because I wasn't on social media.
No, I didn't see these. I didn't see these questions. I saw some questions that people put up that they were asking us stuff. Like one of them was metaverse and crypto stuff. Now, I don't know if that's one of your questions. It might be, but I wanted to talk about the metaverse stuff because there's some angles here that I think people don't really know much about it, and then there's some parts to it that's worrying to me, and I would know a lot more about it because I'm in that space.
Well, I think since Facebook changed their name to Meta, it's way more in the kind of public
Right.
talk. People are talking about what is it.
Did you see the video that Mark Zuckerberg put out?
Oh my God, weirdest. That is the weirdest.
Did you
video
see what he
I've
looked
ever
like?
watched.
He looked like a professional pervert,
Yeah,
and he has the worst fucking haircut.
It's
He's a
terrible.
billionaire.
yeah.
Looks like his man cut his hair in the morning.
He's always had a very, very strange look about him. No,
Just
I've never
so
thought.
untrustworthy.
Very untrustworthy.
So, yeah, he announced it. So,
It's great to have someone like him leading the charge in this new social fucking domain. It's going to
Yeah, it's
take
amazing.
over so much of our life.
but you know, well, I just explain briefly the metaverse, and then we can kind of go into some of the nuanced areas.
Yeah, but
So, for anyone who doesn't know what the metaverse is they're trying to make or create this digital, virtual, augmented reality kind of world, right? Where you put your VR goggles on or whatever contraption it's going to be, and maybe a haptic suit, which is it's where you can feel senses and everything else. But anyway, and then you're in this digital world that you can create and you can formulate to the way you want it. And in there, you can work, you can socialize, you can buy stuff, you can go to events, like you can build things. So that's what they're trying to make this essentially what the metaverse is, right? In a nutshell. Now, I think there's a few things on this, right? So when you look at the internet, when the internet first came out, it was like static, right? You couldn't interact with it. It was like blogs and shit like this, right? You know what I mean? You'd go onto a page and that's all it was. There was no interaction. Then the next stage, they say Web 2.0 would have been like social media and that more interaction between.
being able to buy stuff.
Being able to buy stuff.
Utilize the technology.
Right, and then the smartphones and everything else, right? It seems like the next iteration of that is really bridging the gap between physical and digital. So you're almost bridging those two worlds, which is a fucking scary thought to have. And I think what people don't, a lot of people even, I've said this, people think that Facebook invented or they're the ones that have the metaverse. Like that's not true, you know, like it's just high powered internet coding, all this kind of stuff. There's going to be multiple different metaverses.
But I think Facebook have put their stamp on it now. Like they are going to be, because of the influence they have, the money they have.
Right.
That's what's scary about it, is like the metaverse in theory, from what I've seen in research on it, like, is a kind of romanticized, nice advancement in technology. But when you have a company like Facebook who are already, and again, look, we all fucking use their stuff. Like, I'm on Instagram, I'm on everything that they push. But it's like it does have a lot of cons associated to it. Has a lot of pros as well. But I think the company themselves don't have the best morals.
No, and I think it's worrying because, okay, look at the way Facebook or social media is now, right? How many hours in a day are people on social media, right? It's a large part of the day, okay? Then you have those extra free hours where, you know, you're eating dinner, you're spending time with family, or whatever the fuck you're doing, normal real life stuff. When Facebook create this metaverse, then it's almost going to consume those hours too. And then you have to think, well, Facebook is a centralized company, right? And they already own all of your data and information. They do shady shit across the board with all of your shit. You have no fucking idea what they do with everything. So it's worrying that they're centralized. And I think I'll try, you can reel me in if I go off a little bit on this. But I think what people don't understand is the difference between a centralized company having something or a decentralized company. And centralized and decentralized, it kind of was spurred on by cryptocurrency and blockchain. The reason why blockchain was invented in the first place was because of the Lehman Brothers crash, which fucked everything up. These huge institutions between property, lending, financial in America, they were all just doing what the fuck they wanted, no regulation, and because they all got deregulated, and they fucked up everything. They caused the biggest recession because they're centralized companies that are controlled by a small group of people, and that's why the piece of code on the blockchain was created to try to have an alternate way of a monetary value, right? With transparency within that. You can see all of the information put into the blockchain.
You used there now when you started that, you said a centralized company like Facebook versus a decentralized company. And that's the thing, I don't think you can have a decentralized company. I think a decentralized platform is, in essence, there is no company or there is no entity in control of the data, in control of the information. It's all, everyone who uses the platform will be the controller. So it's like democracy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ideal of that's why with like a decentralized, say, blockchain company or crypto company, it works by everybody using the network. So we all use the network. That powers the network. It saves it from getting hacked. There's things called a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. I could be fucking it up, but
Sorry, I was hoping you were open your eyes there, but I was like, so you have to pass it out.
What?
You just closed your eyes for 5 seconds.
no, because I'm trying to fucking get me thoughts correct. And with that decentralized autonomous organization, it's the people that own shares that are all a part of that company. They all can vote on how things run with that. So you think about this. There's no, and also with decentralized and centralized, decentralized, there's no central point of attack. You know, it's because everyone else is using this network, so it's a lot harder to attack it. There's not one group of people controlling it. Everyone else has a say in it.
It's a lot less susceptible to corruption.
Yeah,
in that
there's
regard.
transparency there.
But I think that sounds amazing, and I think again that's what, like,
I'll relay this back to the metaverse in a second.
well, if you think of cryptocurrency or blockchain, in essence, when it started, was made for that idea that like you could have a more like democratic financial system where you didn't have that like central bank control and like these big lenders that had just so much power and so much influence. And the metaverse, as you said, is like an advancement in the social aspect of technology, which could create all of this infrastructure, the economy, people buying stuff, creating stuff, doing concerts. And what's scary about it is a company like Facebook putting their stamp on it, or saying they're going to put so much energy into it, because of course it's a snowball effect. Like, if you're going to go on to a metaverse or some platform that has a metaverse, why would you not go on to the one that everyone is using?
Right. And that's,
And of course, everyone's going to use Facebook.
but you have to think, yeah, well, like if you're, let's say you're in on Facebook's metaverse and you're balls deep in on it. So you're buying all of your virtual products, maybe the land on there, everything else. First off, they have all of that information that they can use against you, like they already do. They're going to be taking a tax on that for sure. They're making money of all this. You don't own any of it because technically it's not really owned. I don't know how that you're going to have ownership of it. If it's a decentralized metaverse, which is going to be a lot of those too, you're going to have full ownership of everything. There's going to be way more transparency, and yeah, you won't be under that weird control of what Facebook are doing. I mean, I read this, that they're giving away it's called Oculus, is it? Their headset?
Goggles, yeah, the headset.
They're giving them away at cost price.
See, that's the kind of stuff. So if we go back to social media, which is where Facebook have come from, and what is the power of social media. The reason they're such a big company is that people want to be where their friends are, their family are. Like, you're not going to go and join some fucking nuanced social media platform just to be an outlier and just to be like, well, Facebook don't control my data. So all that stuff, and they're not going to be blatantly doing anything. It's like up to this point, all of the stuff they've done, as you said, has been shady. So it's not going to stop them progressing. And you have the generation below us, like teenagers and kids, like they're growing up in this world where I find it hard to understand how someone's going to spend 8 hours of their waking day on social platforms like metaverse and stuff, like games like Fortnite. Like, I know kids who play Fortnite for 3-4 hours. I don't know personally, but we hear kids who play Fortnite 3-4 hours a day, and that all of these things are just building towards this massive shift. I think we see a scary side of it because as you get older, you start to question things like, what are these companies' values? What are they doing? And Facebook were in trouble recently for that, like the monopolization of data and for basically selling people's data without them knowing. Will that stop them? Will that stop them from trying to do the same stuff?
No.
And the funny thing I heard about that actually is when they had to go before, I think Mark Zuckerberg went before the Senate, and two of the people on the board questioning him, there was four on the
Question
board.
his fucking haircut or what?
I'd say, well, they should have. But two of them, it came out afterwards that two of them had shares in Facebook.
Yeah.
So of course you're not going to be questioning someone hard when you have
No.
a financial interest in them being
But
successful.
also think about it. Facebook have the biggest, smartest geniuses in the world who are analyzing human psychology in order to get you literally imprisoned in this social media. Now that sounds a bit drastic, but what I mean is that they're doing everything they can to control, to get you addicted to using it. That's what they do on a daily basis, on across the board. That's why it's fucking scary to me that if they have a monopoly on metaverse stuff, it's just fucking weird.
It's such a new thing though, and we're moving so quickly. And you think of things that are illegal, right? Like you say, drugs, the controlled substances are illegal because people, like young people, can get addicted to them. So you can be feeling bad and you can go and use a drug and you can feel better, and you can follow that pattern, keep doing it and doing it until you're a drug addict.
Yeah.
We don't look at phones or social media the same, but like you think of, if you're feeling bad and you go on Instagram, even if you don't feel better afterwards, you're getting little dopamine releases, you're getting little dopamine hits the whole time, and you're constantly getting fed colourful images, stuff that you're interested in because the algorithms are set up that way. And if you're in a virtual world where you can put on this headset and you're the whole time you're getting stimulated by stuff that's making you feel a little dopamine hit, who's going to, like, again, talking about kids and teenagers who are just growing their brains and learning about life, how hard will it be for them to step back into the normal world?
I don't know. It's fucking weird. I don't know.
I mean, the normal world is boring, really. It's mundane. But you have to, again, I suppose, as you grow older, you start to appreciate small things in life. But even when you're younger and a teenager, I mean, I grew up similar to you just when social media started to kind of take hold. And I always enjoy things more like training. I always enjoyed socializing. I was never big into games and stuff. But for 100%, I got hooked. Not hooked, that's a strong word. But no, I would say that. Like, I got into social media double quick. Like it took me in. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of negative aspects to it, I think, as well. Now with like even with personalities, people's like how they are communicating with other people. If you're constantly doing it behind us, that's why I've always had this thing. I fucking hate having an argument or trying to resolve something on text. Worst thing in the world to do. I can't fucking stand it.
well, it takes all the emotion out of it.
Taking
It's very
everything out,
hard.
and you can't see their facial expressions. You can't see anything behind
And it
it.
draws out an argument so much.
So much.
Because, like, you're
And I think that's another thing that if kids are constantly communicating like that through there, then in the real life, like they're missing a lot of key kind of human behavior things that they pick up on. You know what I mean?
massive, bud. Massive. And again, in the current climate, the way things have been going on with like Twitter and Google and Facebook censoring people or deplatforming people, that's in my view where it's the most dangerous, because if they're in control, it's not about your data and what you're doing, but they're in control of what information you're getting and how you think, and they're in control of like your views on big issues, like, and you're not allowed to think outside of the box that they say this is the box and this is the correct box, and anything outside of that box is wrong and we shouldn't be showing it to people. Even again, like, even if that information that they say shouldn't be shown to people is coming from someone who's very, very like educated and very like capable of talking about that topic. Now I'm talking about COVID specifically at the moment because that's the big thing, but that could go into any area. That could go into anything: education, spirituality, you could say, look, that shit, we're not talking. Health, you could go talk about health. You could say, look, these things are all wishy-washy. We're not going to promote them on the platform. Kids aren't going to be allowed to show
Yeah, I
them
mean,
to it.
they're already doing that now. And look on Twitter. Twitter's fucking like the amount of accounts that are getting suspended and things that you can say.
Oh,
You
insane.
know what? Another thought that I have in my head though is that there you go, stick it on airplane mode. We're only
I know.
fucking 20 minutes into the show there. Go ahead.
Go fuck yourself.
But jeez, I'm not on either. Fucking EJ. So me EJ.
Too
Do you know
sexist
what
to
I
go
what
on.
I
Hello?
like we all know, like everyone you speak to, they say the same thing. Oh, social media is fucking it's negative. I feel better when I have a break. Like no one wants to think about doing their fucking buying their shopping in a weird metaverse thing, or like going to visit friends digitally and not in real life. But why are we doing it then? Why is it because are we just so under control and addicted to social media? Because no one's like, yeah, I can't wait for this. It's great. I want to spend more time on my phone.
It makes things more convenient. And if you think again, like I'll always use the analogy, it's not just kids being affected by it negatively, but adults are as well. But it's scary, particularly when you're growing up. It's very
Am I covered by the mic? I can't even see the video.
you're grand. But it's very scary for a teenager to go out and socialize. Like that's like you have all of the stuff and you're just learning about who you are and stuff, and
I'm moving that
people
leg
can be
there.
mean. Sorry, I'm going to spread myself out. But people can be mean, and then you have the ability to just go on your phone and get all those dopamine releases and see what people are up to, and it creates a very weird mindset where you just shy away from leaving your house because you can just sit down on the couch and just you can talk to people on Snapchat.
Is it? Are we in the weirdest time ever
One of them anyway.
when you think about it?
Like obviously, listen, we're living in a fucking. I said it in the last podcast, but we're very lucky where we live in terms of like we didn't have any war. We didn't like the pandemic has made a lot of people in the West freak the fuck out because it's our first realization. Like people who live in Africa or Asia and all that, like oh, you're afraid of people dying, are you? All right, but
I know.
come and live over here. I'm talking about social media and how it can negatively affect your mental health, but it is a very serious thing. Like, and it really, as a parent, know as well.
It's so weird even if you said it as a parent.
I know it's weird to think it by, but like it doesn't worry me. Like I feel like there will be a cohort of people that don't want it to progress that deep, that fast, and that negatively. But I think there'll be a real split when the metaverse takes over in terms of as technology, which it will become a massive part of our lives. I think there'll be a cohort of people that understand the value in being in the real world and enjoying things in the real world. And there'll also be a cohort of people who just think that's bullshit and the metaverse is the best thing ever. And you'll have just different fucking views on it. Like, you'll have people who want to use it. Will there ever be a time where we realise the dangers and there's more controls put on it again? Like you think about drugs, where the government take that nanny position and they say, look, this stuff's dangerous and it's so dangerous that we're going to put some limitations on how you use it. I don't think that'll ever happen for one reason. There's too much money to be made from it, and there's a lot of fucking. Again, I talked about this before, but like when you have people regulating something, having a financial interest in it, it's very hard for those decisions to not be blurred or not be muddied.
Yeah. Well, I say this on fucking every time we talk, even when me and you talk regularly, I still have a very optimistic view that we're always progressing better. The speed bumps, we're going to have to work through all of this shit and eventually we'll come. I mean, I was stoned the other day. I had this thing in my mind was like, because we're so programmed in from our lizard fucking brains from, hundreds of thousands of years ago, and there's still things that we do now that are still, we're reacting that way because of the way we were back in the day. Maybe this is the next step of kind of getting rid of some of those emotions and actually becoming better people. I don't know how.
What do you mean, like your primal instincts, like emotion,
Yeah,
like
rage and
anger?
all these things that sometimes we do unnecessarily. Listen, if you're living in a really nice city somewhere like that, you shouldn't really have that in you. We're not living back
Well,
in
that's a
the
beautiful idea. It's a romantic idea, but
I'm a romantic person though.
but what two things I think on that now is like, firstly, in order to make that happen, I believe you'd have to get rid of all pain and suffering, and that means like people coming up in very like socio-economic bad backgrounds or having abuse in the household or
But I think
addiction in
eventually
the
that'll
household.
happen.
Well, again, I think that's a great way
Time.
to look at it. The only thing I would say on that as well, another thing is that if that is the evolution of the human being and we're going to grow into this entity that doesn't have the ability to have all these negative emotions, it's not the best thing in the world that a company like Facebook are leading the charge in that, like, because they already have, as we've seen, like, they don't have the best values.
Yeah.
They don't have the best
Look, I think it's something that people need to be aware of and actually like start researching it, looking at metaverse, decentralized. Like, I'm a huge blockchain cryptocurrency advocate, not just because I invest in it. I truly believe that it's it's better for the individual people. So I think it's good for you to get versed in that and understand the differences between decentralized, centralized, like what Facebook are doing, how fucked up it is.
But you have to. It's like our parents in the 90s ignoring the internet and not thinking about like, oh, that's a load of bullshit. You have to. It's going to be part of our lives. I do think, in general, though, when you think of our brains, you mentioned there about like the lizard brain or like the primal instincts we have, how fast we've gone from having very little noise. And what I mean by noise is like you could read a newspaper, listen to the radio, watch a bit of TV, and everything else was in the real world. Now it's just like constant, like in your hand, on your screen. You work on a laptop, you're on your phone, you're out socializing, you communicate, like it's everywhere. It's within arm's reach all the time, and that's where I think that's where the kind of teething pains are coming in. Is that we don't even know how to fucking, and should it be regulated? Like as we move into the metaverse now, will governments take note? Will governments say like, how are we going to fucking make sure this doesn't have the same? If we talk about like cost on public health, like people getting ill, you can see all the stats for teenage mental health issues, teenage suicide issues and attempts. It's gone up through the roof since the inception of social media. So you can say like correlation doesn't mean causation, but it's 100% in anyone who has a fucking rational thinking mind. You cannot argue the point that it hasn't had a negative impact on adolescent minds. And will governments come in and say, look, now that the metaverse is going to be coming in, and that these boys are taking over like Facebook are doing again, should we sit down and put out some fucking rules, ground rules? But it's so hard to do that because what the fuck do you do? Like, we don't even know what, like, you're talking about what it is, but it's still just a theory, like, and it's happening.
But also, I will say this: it's very hard to envision what something's going to like a new technology. Like when the internet first came out, the amount like nobody knew what it was going to be. You know what I mean?
And it has made the world such,
It has made it. But yeah. And listen, we're still living at the best time ever, and there's still a lot of positives. There's enormous amount of positive benefits to social media. We know them anyway. You know what I mean?
but we have seen
But
definitely
I think it's more, in my personal opinion, is more negative than positive. I'm going to say that.
at the moment, yeah. And how it'll change, I don't know. But the metaverse is a very interesting thing. People always ask about it when it's brought up because I think people don't want to miss out, and particularly our generation. I mean, Ed, you probably and your age group, because you grew up with social media. Like, can you remember a time when there wasn't social media?
I mean, I had a brick phone. That was my first phone.
Did you?
Yeah, but I threw it down the sink by accident.
How old were you when you had your first phone?
I was 13.
Was about 2 years
Oh, that's
ago.
good. No, but that's good though. 13. I was probably, how old was I? Maybe 16.
I don't
17.
even know. I can't even remember fucking last week. I think we've gone on a bit of a tangent with the metaverse, but people ask about it a lot, and it is something I think I'd like to keep up to date on it over.
I've got a cramp in my hamstring.
Over the Ed, do you want to massage it out there? I think it's something that we should stay on top of over the coming like 6 months or something.
Well, it's going to keep being something that's going to be in the
I'd
news
I
because
would like people to like, because we know a lot about it. I know a lot about it. Obviously, I'm farming in the fucking metaverse. I think it's good to kind of keep people updated.
I was wondering when you got out of the car, we had wellies on.
I had to have wellies on for the farm. Ed, so I'm pretty sure I know there was questions about metaverse. That's why I brought it up. But there was other questions. A lot of them. Can you pick like a couple of good ones because you can't answer them all?
I've got some good ones. There was like loads. We did get more than expected.
Because we've got fuck all followers so far.
How many?
Yeah,
should,
fair play
yeah, I
to the
know. It
followers.
was pretty good. How many should we do? Like 2, 3, 4?
You choose. Just
All right, we'll do a few. This one was good. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
it's just outright. What's the best advice you ever gotten?
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of good advice in my life, man. A lot of good advice.
Oh, I had. Well, I don't know. Well, this is not an advice, but it was something someone said to me, and it stuck with me fucking to this day. And this was a while ago. So when I was in the band, we were doing a music video, and I don't know how far we were in, but a friend of mine who's an actor, and he'd done some really good stuff. He was helping us out to be in the music video. This guy took off work. We got him to jump into the ocean in February in Ireland with his clothes on
fair play.
multiple times, freezing his bollocks off. Just he gave us so much of his time, excuse me, and creative input. And after it was all said and done, at the time, listen, we had fucking nothing, no money, no nothing. We were all having a pint, like the good old days.
Was it half 8 o'clock? Half 8 o'clock. It wasn't even that. Was it 8:30 p.m.?
And I remember we just pulled together like 150 quid or something, and I felt even embarrassed giving it to him because he gave us so much of his time. But I wanted to give him something. I went over, I said, "Look, come here, cheers, Vinny. Thanks so much for doing that and everything else." And he says, and I'll never forget it. He said, "Look, I'm not taking that money because if I take that money from you, then it's not a favor, and you're my friends. And in life, you need friends to give you a dig out, and that's to give you a hand." To progress whatever you're doing, and that's what friends are for. So for me, I couldn't even take that money. It's me as a friend doing you a favor. Now he was older than me, but it just fucking stuck with me that it's like that's what it
In a
is.
way, it stuck with you so much because it was an action instead of words. It wasn't someone saying something; it was someone doing something. It's powerful.
Very powerful.
I feel like you're setting me there. No, do you want a loan or something? You're gonna, this is for the- I'm thinking of one that happened to me recently because that's like there was loads of stuff happened. But when I was in London, there was a lad training in the gym, Ed Screen. Shout out to Ed. He's an actor as well, and I was talking to him about like the resistance to putting myself out there and being on social media and like putting up content or like doing the podcast even. And he was listening to me and he was like, yeah. And then he said, "You know what, Shane? You're not that important."
Yeah.
He said, "No one gives a
No.
fuck. So just do whatever you feel is your creative output."
People care about themselves more than fucking anything else.
But it was true, man. It's like you think about so much. You think like, oh, how am I going to be perceived when I put this out there, and what way are people going to think of me and stuff. And that's just maybe I'm just different, but that's the unconscious kind of background noise. You're always thinking about that. And when he said that to me, and he said as well, like, you're never going to not have that. That's just the way you are. You're built to that. So it's just you have to just do it. You have to just take action. And as well as long as you know you're doing something that you feel is good, and you're creating something that you feel is worth doing.
And also, isn't it like you're more concerned about what your friends think when you put something out
Oh,
there than strangers?
definitely. It's the
Which
people,
that's
it's people in
fuck
your
all.
immediate circle.
They're trying to reach a big audience or whatever you're trying to do. I mean, we're trying to reach a bigger audience with this podcast. We will in time, but that's a very small group of people that you're concerned about.
But it's also the important ones that, well, your head says that they're particularly your family, like the people you love and care about, like you'd like them to think like you're doing something more
Yeah,
well.
but no, it's good advice because it does hinder you from just you need to have tunnel vision when you're doing. So you can't be spending time thinking about what they're going to think. First off, they're not going to think fucking anything. Do you know what I mean? They're too concerned about with their own lives.
Very true, but that was a great piece of advice. And again, I'm probably leaving out so much other advice that I got over.
Look, if you think about it, you can do it again. Do you have another one, Edward?
Yeah, Nabs, you mentioned the crypto. We got a load of crypto.
Yeah, a lot
questions.
of crypto. Yeah.
So we'll sum it up with one. One person sent in any crypto advice for beginners. So I think that sums up like
Beginners.
that's a good place to start. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is the thing that I get asked all the time. Now, I'm by no means an expert at all. I mean, I know the space a lot, but it's not like I don't do it full time or whatever, but I know enough about it. And people tend to want you just to say, "Oh, invest in this coin," and that's it. And it's the worst thing you can do because if you don't know anything about it, it's the quickest way you'll lose your fucking money. And I've lost a lot of money because I didn't have conviction or really understand what I was investing in on multiple levels. So I would say, because this can get very technical very quick. So I would start really basic. You need to have skin in the game to learn anything. Otherwise, you're not going to learn nothing. So I would say go to either Coinbase or Binance, which are two big cryptocurrency exchanges.
And use the discount.
Yeah. And then that could be a sponsor later down the road. And then, link it to your bank account and buy a little bit of Bitcoin and Ethereum, just like 50 quid's worth or something like that, nothing crazy, just to have skin in the game on that. And so you understand, okay, well, look, at least I've signed up to an exchange. I have it in my wallet. I can see it. And then I would say go to YouTube and try find a really great crypto influencer, someone who explains the basics of cryptocurrency, because you have to understand the basics. Like forget trying to learn about the technology behind each one because that's nearly impossible. Try learn the technology behind an email. Fuck knows what that is. I still don't know what that is, right? So don't go that way, but just try to understand. Like for example, people say to me, "Oh, there's a coin here. It's like 20 cent," or like Dogecoin. It's famous because Elon Musk is like 30 cent. That could get up to, imagine that got up to like 30,000. Physically impossible because behind every cryptocurrency, there's a certain amount of coins that they create. So Bitcoin is, I think it's 21 million. For some reason, it's either 19 or 21 million, but that's finite. Dogecoin's billions and billions and billions, and they keep printing them out. So it will never, ever get to that price. It's physically impossible. So understand the fundamentals of a crypto exchange, buy a little bit, a good crypto influencer on YouTube who explains the basics, and then just get your head around that first, I think. That would be my piece of advice.
When you asked the question there, I was thinking if I could speak to myself when I first started getting into crypto in 2017, what advice would I give to me back then? And I think the amount of energy and emotions I've spent chasing the market and trying to understand it and trying to get in at the right time and FOMO and all these things, I would just say to myself, pick like 3 or 4 coins that you believe have potential for whatever reason. And then you think you have to do a bit of research into that, but like there's ones that are like, I suppose, store of value, like Bitcoin. There's ones that have utility and have a blockchain that can be built on, like Ethereum and Binance and all these. And I would say just if you're working and you're saving 200 quid a month, factor 50% of that savings into a cryptocurrency.
But I would just to add to that, that's long-term play because cryptocurrencies have.
True.
Let's say someone's like, oh, in the next year or two, I'd like to try make X amount of money with. I have X to invest. That's a different.
But if someone's going to do that, Nabs, you have to understand that there's a massive trade-off with time. You can't do that without having to fucking spend.
Oh
time.
yeah. But that's another thing. It depends how much time you
It would
want.
depend on time.
But I'm saying there's like, if someone's like, look, I've got 10,000 on the side, I'd like to try make investments in crypto and maybe double or triple it for whatever. I wouldn't do what you said just because markets have cycles, so they go up and down, up and down. So that's a longer term strategy, I think, which is a great one.
Well,
like a 5-10 year strategy. Every month you're buying a little bit
dollar
of
cost
dollar
averaging.
cost averaging into say top 5 coins. Now I can get deeper into this as we go if people want to know, because each one of these cryptocurrencies, they have their own ecosystem of new coins and new things, and there's updates, there's news, there's things that are happening, and there is coins that are good to invest in. Like I've invested in quite a lot of them, but for now I think that's enough, otherwise we'll get too complicated. What you reckon? Was that good, Ed?
Yeah, I think it's enough.
Because you're not that well versed in it. Does that make sense to you?
I think so. I think that's a good place for people to start, and we can get more in depth.
Is that it?
We've got one more.
Right.
What should people experience before they're 30?
I just straight away think of dirty shit.
Yeah, I did too, to be honest. But I have a filter now. I would say again, this is like fucking. I'm like a bus driver telling people to get on the bus, but like martial arts, get into martial arts.
God, yeah. Martial arts and travel and martial arts. I think, you know what, when you break those two down, and you'd know with the martial arts more than me, but like you get so many qualities and experience so much when you do martial arts, particularly jiu-jitsu or something like this, right? Like list them out. So you're getting fit, physically stronger, you're learning a new skill, you're learning discipline, respect, you're socializing with people, you're making new friends. What else? There's so many things just from one thing that you're getting.
Yeah, I think the first one you said there about you're getting healthy, you're getting fitter and stuff like that. It's more than that, because you're in a culture, when you're in a martial arts gym, you're constantly learning about nutrition, about recovery, about different ways to strengthen your body and flexibility, mobility. So it's every martial art is so versatile in the terms of like what you need to do to be good at it. It forces you to investigate these things. And like as a kid, when I played football, like as I played soccer and rugby and all these things, the warm up was like touch your toes, grab your foot, and you've just done it. Like, but in martial arts, it was like you see people stretching after training, people stay back working on the bag. They call it, and especially the older fighters, there was a massive mentoring, like a natural mentoring.
It's another thing, yeah. And also, fuck me, self-confidence. That's a huge thing.
Self-confidence, huge. But I always say this, when I started Thai boxing first, when I was like 13, 14, and I followed soccer quite a lot, like when I was younger, I would never, ever have gotten to train in the same fucking training room as like Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. But there was times in my life in martial arts where I was with some of the best fighters in the world, not because I was worthy of being there, just because that's how humble it is. Like when I was in Thailand, I was with Yad Sinclair. I trained in rooms with fucking, like in the UK, I was with some of the best fighters who should be held in the esteem of like a professional footballer. But because the sport is steeped in tradition of like humility and stuff, you could be a beginner and you could be training with a fucking 5-time world champion. Yeah. And that's the way it goes. Like if you're in a good gym, there'll never be a time where someone who's that high up will walk past you without, if you're doing something incorrect, they'll always stop. Right. And they'll say, listen, boy, this is some advice. That's amazing. Like you very rarely get that.
Also for women, I think, especially jiu-jitsu, it's such a fucking builds such confidence.
Yeah, I think it's very important for both.
It is, yeah.
Like, to be able to be physically confident, like to be confident in conflict, but that's not.
It's not the main thing, but I look the basic thing on it. That there's just so many qualities.
No, even if you're not 30, or even if you're fucking over 30. I've met people who started Thai boxing. I've trained people who started Thai boxing in their 50s and 60s and fucking loved it and got so much from it. So any stage in life, but travel and martial arts, and travel for obvious reasons, you get to grow. Yeah,
grow your mind, meet new people, new cultures. Yeah, experiences. Fucking hell, like don't be insulated where you are. Jesus.
All right, boys. That was very good. There, no, I really enjoyed that.
Good. Are you still doing? Are you going to do Ask Reddits too?
I mean, we've done a lot of questions. We did who's most likely to fan. I've got 2 Ask Reddits left over, but they're pretty good ones. We can do them as well.
All right.
I'm on a flow now because we had some nice deep chats there. So let's do the Ask Reddits as well.
It's fucking freezing over here.
Are you cold? I'm boiling in there.
I'm actually warm
Yeah,
as well.
fucking free. Because I'm used to fucking. I was in.
I used to be in Miami.
I did Mexico 8 months and then Miami for fucking 3. Like.
Didn't know you were in Mexico, Miami.
What?
I didn't know you were in Mexico, Miami.
I don't get it.
I'm just saying, joking like that. I know you're there because you
Oh,
said it
right,
about
right.
15
No, I mean,
times
all right,
today.
motherfucker. I'm just saying.
He's wearing a Miami top. Oh, I'm freezing here. Did I tell you I was in, did I tell you I was in Miami in Mexico?
I acclimatized so quickly to it. It's just,
But I'm just being very spiteful because I have to spend the next 3 months in the freezing cold and you're going back over to Miami. So,
yeah.
but I do love going into the cold water and stuff, so that's the benefit of it. All right, ask Reddit, Ed.
What will be the smoking of our generation? So something that we consider safe but isn't.
What would say about it? Say it again.
What would be the smoking of our
I
generation?
think we already answered that question though. We're talking about
Social
social
media.
media, like, yeah, 100%.
You think it'll be social media?
Yeah, because again, there was very little regulation around cigarettes back in the day, like, or even around anything. That, you know,
So you could see there being more regulation on social media in the future.
well, I think it's something that we look back and it's either going to be more regulated or we're going to look back in it and think, fuck, like that really took its toll.
I think that the what he's trying to say, if I can speak for you,
Okay.
well, I fucking am though.
Well, you're
Well, I
not,
am right now though. Is
but I'm not giving you
but
permission
I
to
don't
speak.
stop me. Very good at doing that.
Thanks.
No worries. So I think it's going to be a mental, whatever it is, it's a mental thing, not a physical. Do you know what I mean? So whatever that shift will be,
Why is that?
because of what's happening with everything, because it's shifting more onto everything now. To me, seems to be psychological, mental, mind, whatever. It's not like what's the biggest issues right now with everything, with social media, with COVID, with everything else. I think it's people's
The effect
effect
on
on
the
the
mind.
mind. So I think it will be something that's going to affect the mind.
With all of these as well, like the reason smoking became what it did is because of it, the cost on your health, public health, like how much impact it had on the healthcare systems, people getting cancers and stuff.
Yeah.
So eventually, when people start realizing the impact social media is having on our health, which already we can see, but it's like not the same. You know, people are brushing it off, and everyone's again. I think when smoking first, I wasn't alive then, but I do know from hearing things that like it was almost taboo to say anything back. 'Cause so many people done it, like it was just the fucking thing to do. Like everyone smokes. So smoke.
So there was I saw in Congress they had the tobacco companies up there. I forgot what documentary I was watching, and they were like, "You don't think you're telling me that nicotine's not addictive?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's not addictive. It's like the most addictive thing ever."
But of course you're going to say that. Like of course when you're making billions a year. I think social
Also,
media.
another thing is that I think we're smart enough now on a physical level with our bodies that we kind of know ish. If some, yeah, a little more than we did. You know what I mean? So I think we're not there yet with the mind. No fucking way.
Don't think so.
Fuck no, no, we're not there yet at all.
And there's also there's a lot less that we haven't already experienced with physical stuff, like all of the drugs and the substances that we take have been like, it's not like they're making up new stuff and saying, well, who knows though, there could be some fucking thing that the pharma companies make that could be look back on in the future as maybe a bit of a mistake. Like
Oh yeah,
cigarettes or-
yeah, I'm sure there would be, but yeah,
Cigarettes were a new invention. I'm saying there's not much new inventions that we're putting into our bodies.
Maybe vaccines, Shane.
Well, look, I didn't go down that rabbit hole, but
don't start them.
But,
You know that
when
you
it
know
comes to
that you can start
technology,
them.
though, when it comes to technology, though, you both have warned me on multiple occasions not to go down the rabbit holes, and I do listen. Even though I have a very centered approach.
The last podcast we talked about it enough.
We did. All right, Ed. I said social media.
This is a good one, this last one. What are some tips for fighting for someone who has never been in a fight?
Street.
have to take
I'm
that
thinking in a professional setting. I'm thinking.
Professional. Go ahead, UFC coach.
When you said it first, I thought street
Yeah, I
fighting.
thought street fighting.
And I said straight away, how long do I have with him, did you say?
You have 5 minutes with them before.
5 minutes. I'll just tell him to kick someone
Yeah,
in the dick. As hard as
in the dick. Yeah,
bite as
bite.
well.
Yeah,
You have to be vicious, like you have to be eye gouging.
quick in and out.
You have to, and then if it was professional, in both instances actually, but in professional as well, if I had 5 minutes, which isn't.
So you're like
time.
saying, okay, well, hold on. So the person, the guy,
The goalie.
it's a new gender. Girl or boy are literally at the ring They're about to go in and fight you 5 minutes before they're going in, and they've never had any experience.
What I'd say to them first,
None. No
all right,
training. No
5 minutes.
flights,
I'd say to them,
For the fences and have the
I'd
crack.
say, how are you feeling? I'd say, how are you feeling? And more than likely, they're going to say, I'm terrified. And I'm going to say, well, the other person across the ring is feeling the same way. So what you have to do now is listen to me for 2 minutes. I'm going to show them how to generate power in their shots. What kind of fight is it? Is it MMA or is it like Thai boxing
I
or
haven't
boxing?
even thought that far. Let's go Muay Thai.
Let's just say Thai boxing. I teach them how to generate power in their shots. I just teach them how to do rotational mechanics so they can actually hit. And then I'll tell them that they have to just go wherever the butterflies are flowing, make sure they're going the direction of their opponent. And I just say, get in and fucking enjoy
So
it.
you have the crack.
Spice it up. Don't think about the outcome. Just go in and have the crack. Because you can't train someone. Look, in 5 minutes, if someone is naturally not shy of getting stuck in, you can. If I teach them the rotational mechanic stuff, then they can actually do some damage. If someone is terrified of getting engaged, you cannot teach them that in 5 minutes. That's just their nature. And in that case, then they're fucked. Like it's up to
I
them.
had my first ever little Muay Thai fight. Shane was in my corner. Do you remember?
That was your corner, boy.
And
You
he was
broke your
doing
foot.
the first kick I threw because a big lanky tall cunt. The first kick, and you told me before you were like, make sure you step in on the kick, right? You step in on the kick, and I obviously wasn't listening, and I broke my foot. And then that night I took like, oh, I'm gonna say it anyway, a load of ecstasy pills, and my foot just blew up. And for like 2 weeks, it was just I didn't never went to the hospital. And then eventually I went and they were like, you're a fucking idiot because it's now it's fuzzy on the x-ray and it healed all wrong and now my foot's still fucked from it. But good times though, wasn't it?
Great times, boy. Great times. Yeah. So that's the advice I give people fighting. I
I
think.
love that go where the butterflies are.
Sure they're going the direction they were born. Like you have to, again, especially even people who've trained for a few months, man. If they have their first fight, you're going to be so overwhelmed. Like I remember it, man. It's like when I came out of the ring after my first fight, and that was when I was like 15. I can still remember it. I could not recall one moment of that fight in the immediate aftermath of it. Like, I was so nervous, and I was in the change room vibrating with adrenaline, and I was after winning by stoppage, and all my family were outside and stuff. And I was in the change room standing there like shaking, and one of my teammates came over and he was like, "You have to go outside. Your family want to see you." And I was like, "Oh fuck yeah, my family are here as well." So you just literally, I was just fucking.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I was just fucking in that way. Like I was not like I'm not someone who is conflict orientated. Like I'd avoid conflict at all costs. But when you're obviously in a ring, I'm just like fuck it. You have a contract where you're both trying to do damage. Like so, it's like let's get it done.
That's it, Ed.
That's all
All
we've
right,
got,
that was
yeah.
a fucking day of it. That was.
Boys, it's been 6 hours, 7
Yeah,
hours.
so you had 4 hours notice to get from London to Ireland.
1 hour sleep.
I drove. I'll be in total have driven 7 hours today. We fucked up this studio.
I told Rachel I was collecting her 3:30 to go for something to eat with the boys.
Yeah, what time is it now? 6 o'clock. We're gonna get banned from using this fucking studio ever again because we've broken the whole thing up and there's cameras here.
Oh, stop.
Sorry.
Stop, because I'm going to listen to this probably, but hopefully they'll
Oh,
do.
Again, we're only starting, and we're trying to get used to doing all this stuff, and we really do appreciate the feedback. Especially, I know you're a lot more you're active on the CraicHouse page, but we really do fucking appreciate it like a lot. We do see it. And is that camera off? One of our cameras is gone. It might be gone.
Nice.
I don't know. Technical issues. So anyway, we appreciate it, and we're going to be doing I know, fucking hell, all day long. We've just had things fuck up.
The main thing.
Look at that, Jesus Christ. I mean, I didn't even finish, but go ahead. Basically, we're going to be doing some crypto giveaways and interacting a lot more, and just keep going with it. So we appreciate all the feedback.
We're also going to be doing a lot more going forward. We're going to be doing a lot more kind of content stuff. We're going to be going
Yeah.
doing things.
We are.
It's not just going to be listening to watching us sitting down having a crack.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it, boys. Put it on. We go up on days and crack to see in person. Yes, boys. Yes,
Love it,
boys.
boys.
Be the boys.
What can I do? What can I do? I can't take my shirt off.
Yeah. All right. Until the next one.
That's my shirt.
It is. Yeah.
I literally took the shirt off.
All right.
Good stuff, boys. Thanks, everyone.
See you.